On this Wednesday, January 29th, welcome into the Oklahoman's video studio. We're going to be talking about this play story in today's editions of the Oklahoman and also being played up online at oklahoman.com this morning about the complex project underway at I-235 and I-44. Heaps of people drive that every day. Big changes coming up this weekend. Terri Angier from the Oklahoma Department of Transportation joins us. And I want to lead off by talking about routines. What's your routine every morning? For example, I get up, make some coffee, grab a banana, that's my breakfast. Come here, go next door, Cafe 7, they have some Starbucks coffee that I buy. That's my routine. My point is, and we'll dive into your routine here in just a second perhaps, people have routines when they're going to work, which may involve I-235 because that is a busy corridor. That routine is going to change, especially this weekend.
Absolutely. So similar routine for me.
Okay.
I have to have the coffee before I can wake up, but my routine changes daily because I want to be accessible to the public and to the media. So depending on whether there's snow and ice, I may get a call at 4 a.m.
Nature of your job, correct?
And that changes the routine.
And from those of us on the media side of the fence, we appreciate that.
So definitely, and thank you for saying that, the routine is extremely important, and that's what we've asked the public to change the last few years, and we really appreciate their patience. This is the final major phase of the I-235, I-44 interchange reconstruction. And as we promised, the most disruptive. So because normally we work out in an interchange and we work our way in, and now we are in the middle of the interchange. So very disruptive. We understand it, we recognize it. That's why we ask for the public's partnership more than ever.
Terri, you came in and sat down and kicked off this project, I don't know, maybe it has been a couple of years now, called Off-Broadway. Let's back up and talk about that. What is the overall Off-Broadway project?
Sure. So just a little bit of background. For years, we had this interchange on our plans, and we didn't have the funding to put toward it. We recognized it needed to be redone. We just simply didn't have the funding. So we began to chip away on the outside, did small ramps, hoping for our funding trends to change, and thankfully it did, thanks really to the public for making transportation their priority, but also the legislature and the governors. So because of that funding trend, we now are able to finish the whole project. So it's about a 7-phase project. This is the 6th phase, depending on how you count them. Some of them have been combined, but there's one small phase left at the end, which is a great one also from Lincoln. If you, for example, work at the Capitol, you're going northbound on Lincoln, then you can go directly to Broadway Extension without having to maneuver the movements on I-44. So that's the last phase, and that's going to be great. It's not going to be disrupting traffic, but this phase will for another year.
We've seen a few disruptions along I-235. Some of the footage we saw there, Paige Dillard producing back in the control room of that bridge, the train bridge, that was a massive undertaking. But to everybody involved's credit, from what I've heard, things have gone pretty well.
Absolutely. We're very glad that things have gone very smoothly. The last phase and this phase were the two largest, when they were let to contract, the largest in the state at the time. So this one is 105 million of the 300 million for the total interchange. And it's another year of it, but it has 4 closures on I-235, this one being the first one. If they could reduce them, they will. But right now there's 4 closures on I-235 and 1 on I-44 over the next 6 months.
So let's dive into the details for those people navigating that this weekend. It will be disrupted, shut down Friday night and opening back up Sunday morning. So this weekend, you're not going to go north and south on I-235 around I-44, and specifically, and there's the map, it's between basically 63rd and 36th, right?
Exactly. So the interchange is shut down between 36th and 63rd. However, we are really wanting to make sure the public realize that if you want to not get in the middle of this, unless you're going to local places on 63rd or Breton Road or Wilshire on the north or south on 23rd, just avoid it altogether on highways at I-40, the John Kilpatrick on the north, Lake Hefner Parkway on the west, I-35 on the east. Just avoid this area.
Those are your better options for
Those
just
are
avoiding this area.
absolutely your
Don't
better
get too close to
options.
63rd or 36th unless you really need to go on those streets for whatever
Exactly.
purposes.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you may face some backup as people are like, oh, it's shut down, and they're lined up to get off that area.
Exactly. So like in the past, we've said, be patient if you must drive it. This weekend, we're saying that's not even an option because there's no way to get you through that interchange. Even getting you off at 63rd, we can't route you around at that point. So you have to be going to the local places. Otherwise, you have to get off on I-40 and get around all the way around.
One of the items that Chris Castile pointed out was signage. What sort of signage are we looking at this week as people approach these areas?
Right. So then that's a great point because, you know, we recognize that signage has been a little bit of a problem. And the reason is this area, as we've already noticed, is shifting all the time. So signage has to shift with it. And sometimes there's just not enough time between phases. That's no excuse. However, the big overhead sign had to come down several months ago for the project, for the construction project, and that had a lot of the directions on it. But now we have to replace that with small signs for getting off at 63rd or westbound I-44 or eastbound I-44. And sometimes those signs are small to see, but we're not able to put big signs up as temporary signs because there's just no room in that construction area.
That's a good point. Sometimes the sign itself has to move because it's in the way, right?
Exactly, which is what happened in this case. Absolutely.
Let's look ahead. We mentioned off-Broadway, these 7 stages. This is the 6th stage. What's the timeline look like at this point?
Right. So this phase has another year left on it. So right now it's slated for spring of 2021. We're hoping with the $2 million in incentives, it'll be earlier, but it's really too early to tell till some of these beams are placed on the bridges and we know a little better. The contractor can tell us a little better. But right now it's another year of this. After that, the final phase will be let to contract, and that's only 1-year project.
Gotcha. And to your point on some of these things, you never know with Oklahoma weather. Is it going to be rainy or windy, like in the case of the train bridge? I believe the high winds are a factor on when you can do some of these things.
Exactly. So these beams, for example, this weekend, weather was a factor a little bit in terms of, and the mud for us because these are huge cranes. So that's why they wanted to wait another week to get all the deliveries in, make sure the soil is a little better than it was last week, and also the winds. So they're very much hoping that they could finish the work this weekend that they have slated, but weather is always a factor. We never know what Mother Nature has in store for us.
2 words right there. She's Terri Angier with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation. We always enjoy the conversation with you come in.
Thank
Your
you.
entire
Same here.
crew. It's always fun to deal with you. She's a big San Francisco 49ers fan. We were joking beforehand. Before the Chiefs, the 49ers, neither one of us really have a dog in the fight, but the halftime show should be great, right?
Absolutely. I'm glad Dave was able to educate me on the Super Bowl, so now I'm a San Francisco fan, so we can have different parts, huh?
Go Chiefs, right? All right, you can find more information various places, including Oklahoman.com, the ODOT website. Right there, the page is pulled up. Also has your information updated around the clock. Terri, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.